I was at Vaughn's yesterday. No, excuse me, I was at Ralph's. Vaughn's, they're very nice about it. But I was at Ralph's, and every time I check out at Ralph's, I have to say, that's the anti-apartheid wagon that comes down the street and makes sure there's
a lot of construction.
No Chazarai happening in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Every time I go to Ralph's specifically, when I check out, I got a baby screaming all over the place. It's like owning a monkey, you know? Mm-hmm. Time's valuable, and I go, hi. Plastic, please, as much as you can in each bag. I do not have a Ralph's card. I do not want a Ralph's card, and I do not want to talk about a Ralph's card whatsoever. Right. And they go, okay, do you want to give me your phone numbers? And I just go, and I walk out. Yeah. Like this obsession, and that comes from corporate.
Right.
Like, that's not like the cashier's like, I'm going to fucking get this guy.
Who are the guys, by the way, who have that Ralph's card proudly swinging from their keychain? Like, have you seen the guys where they just come in, they flop them down? Why don't you just tie a tampon to the keychain, be slightly less effeminate? Like, hey, I'm interested in saving between 4% and 7% at the supermarket. Hey, single ladies, you know.
And then on Twitter, you'll see, they'll be like, hey, man, $6 is $6. I don't know what you guys' problem is. You guys are better. Like, no, here's the thing. I want to be out of there more than I want to save $6.
Now, listen.
It's worth $6 for me to be in my car instead of you typing in my phone number.
I've had it. I've said to people, like, a lot of times, like, I go, do you know how much a head of lettuce is? And the guy will be like, no. And I'll go, good. That means you're a winner. Like, if you go, well, romaine or, you know, butter leaf, like, you know, if you know it's $1.49, that's bad. I'm happy to tell you I have no idea what a head of lettuce costs.
I don't know what anything
That's a
costs.
good thing. Me and Donald Trump don't know what anything costs. It's a good thing. And then the next thing is I had... Tell me what you think of this douchebag kind of move I pulled. I used to take all the writers from Kimmel over to the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, like down the street in Hollywood, and I'd just tell everyone, order your tea, order your coffee, and I'll buy it. And then they would go, the woman behind the counter would go, do you have a card? Would you like a card? Because you come in here every day. We'll punch the card, and then when you come in for the 10th time, you get a free mocha or whatever it is. And I said, no, I don't have a card. And she said, would you like a card? And I said, no, I don't want a card. And then the guy next to me said, one of the writers said, I got a card. Will you punch my card? And I said, don't do it. I'm buying. And I say no. So if you want your card punched, you can buy. Well, otherwise, there'll be no card punching. And he thought I was a douche.
I don't think it's douchey because you were buying. It's your terms.
I'm buying. I also told this to somebody, and they believed me, and I didn't find out until later. It's a story I've mentioned on my podcast before, which is I took Teresa Strasser, my old radio show host, out with me to dinner, and my wife and her husband, and we all went out to dinner. And at the end of the night, I was taking them out to dinner. And at the end of the night, we'd had a couple glasses of wine, and she couldn't finish her oversized pork chop. And she said, oh, yeah, my wife said, yeah, I'm going to need mine wrapped up. She had a pork chop too. And then Teresa said, I need mine wrapped up too. And I said, sorry, but I have a policy where when I pay, the food goes home with me. And it's nothing personal. And you eat as much as you want and order as much as you want. But when it comes time to wrap it up, it has to come home with me. It prevents people from ordering extra salads and sandwiches and desserts that they're just going to take home and eat for lunch and breakfast the following day. You understand? And she said, really? And I was like, yeah. It's kind of my rule. And I was kidding around, of course, because it'd be the douchiest move in the world. But we ended up drinking a little wine, and I think she fucked up. And the next day, I just had 2 pork chops in my thing. And then I realized her and her husband drove home. Like, you know, there's that part of life where you do something douchey and someone believes you.
Yeah,
for a day.
Me, yes.
Yeah, well, that went on for 9 years. But what I'm saying is, like, just the conversation of them driving home, going, honest to God, he took home your doggy bag just because he paid for it.
Did you eat the food?
I did. It was like out of a. No, but I swear to God, it was like out of a sitcom where I said to my wife, what are you having for dinner? And she said, I'm going to have my pork chop I brought home from Amalfi, the restaurant. And I said, oh, sorry, I already ate it. I ate it for lunch when you weren't home. And she said, I'm looking at it right now. And I was like, I already ate it. She goes, no, it's right here. And then I realized, oh, my God, I ate someone else's pork chop. Or hers, quite possibly.
You became Ray Romano and Patricia Heaton during that exchange.
Yes, it's an intimate...
I'm looking at it right now, Raymond.
Right. It's very intimate, a pork chop. Like, if you think about it...
Yeah, because someone's mouth, like, scrapes up, their teeth scrape up, if they do it correctly.
But sharing, like, a swig of cranberry... Like, if somebody has a cranberry juice and vodka, and you go, let me have a hit off that, it ain't no big deal. But if they're drinking buttermilk... It's a sexual experience, you know what I mean? It's a big deal. That saw in the background is a high point saw, by the way.
You are like a tool guy. You still doing Ace on the House?
Yes, I know what they all sound like.
And you do, of course, the Adam Carolla podcast. You, my friend, are the tip of the spear. There's like 3 guys that really got the ball rolling for all of us. You're the Lewis and Clark of podcasting. We all followed in your footsteps. You, Kevin Smith... Rogan was way out in front of it.
Sure.
And Marin.
Yeah.
You guys are like the tip of the spear.
Yeah, I guess. You know,
you brought terrestrial radio fans with you. Like yours, I think, was more of like a middle finger to the establishment.
Well, you know, what was happening when I was doing terrestrial radio, which is weird, is radio guys are wildly dumb. You know what I mean? Like I always would say to people when they'd go like, well, tell me about radio and TV. And I'd go, well, TV guys are evil and smart and radio guys are evil and dumb. That's sort of the comment. That's how I define them. And so when I was doing my radio show, they would come in like once a month and they would go, this week you had 17 million minutes of streaming. And I'd say, well, how does that work? And they'd go, well, The Fan in New York was number 1 with 19 million minutes of streaming. And then your show was number 2 with 16 or 17 million minutes of streaming. And I realized what had happened is I was on over 100 markets when I was doing Loveline for all those years. And, you know, Chicago and Boston and places like that. And now I was just in Seattle and Phoenix and LA and maybe 13 or 14 markets. So those people who lived in Chicago would listen on the computer. So I kept saying to the radio guys, this whole streaming on the internet, which is really sort of basically a podcast, it's you go into your computer and listening to a radio show. I would say this got to be worth something, right? I mean, 16 million minutes of streaming, that's pretty good. Like, what's this worth? What are we going to do to, monetize this? And they were like...
they did an impression of your father.
Yeah.
And they said...
Huh?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Go ask your mother.
Monetize? That's your middle name?
We're Catholics, Adam.
Yeah. Monotize or monetize? Because my brother Ralph says monetize, and I say monotize. Yeah, they're like, huh, what? And so when I left radio, or when they flipped the format, I was like, and I'd done Bill Simmons' podcast.
The sports guy.
The sports guy. I'd done Bill's podcast like 3 or 4 times before that. And he was always like, Ace, you should do a podcast. And I was like, I'm doing radio. I don't need to do a podcast.
He's a jazz man?
But yeah, and I said, so I was done with that. I was like, well, we got all these 16 million minutes of streaming, and plus I got nothing to do for 10 months because I'm getting paid. It was the greatest, like my number one dream as really as an American, but mostly as a performer is I got shit canned from my job. And I got paid for another 10 months.
That's incredible. You can round that up to a year, really.
I should just say a year.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I mean, when I used to work construction and they'd talk about some guy who fell off a ladder and got like disability for 3 months, we're like, fucking Dave is so lucky. God.
And Percocet.
Yeah, he gets Percocet. He gets disability. He's getting paid
now. Full disability or half?
Full. He's watching The Price is Right now and getting paid.
You know what?
The same as we're getting paid.
Those are the guys that have that conversation, or the guys that don't know when to say or and. They go, you know what? He's an asshole. That guy's an asshole.
He's an asshole.
He's an asshole.
Yeah.
I like when people don't say the H when they say, he's a huge asshole.
Yeah.
That Dave is a huge human who's an asshole.
Yeah. So that, to me, was as good as it ever got. And
so how long into this 10-month paid vacation did you say, fuck it, I'm going to look into this? Did you need to look into the streaming? Did you ask for someone's help?
The second it
door closed behind you.
Yeah.
And who did you go to? Or is that private?
Well, no.
I mean, you don't have to name names, but like, did you go, hey, blank, how does this work?
Yeah.
You got to go to somebody that's tech savvy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I worked with guys who did that for a living as well.
So how long into the 10 months before you actually were up and running with the Adam Carolla podcast?
Well, we were up and running the following day, but
really,
no money came in. There was no money until, I don't know, at least like probably a year. It really just became a way to do live shows.
Yeah.
But, I wasn't a live performer. So
did the people at the radio station, did they ever get back in touch with you once the streaming was up and running and realized the revenue on the table, or did they remain dumb?
They
like to this day, do they think like Adam's out doing his podcast thing? We're playing hits.
Yeah. I
Hotel California.
Oh.
Play this again.
Oh God.
In 44 minutes. Program director comes down the hallway, says, Adam, hit your posts. Go to Teresa with traffic and weather.
My friend Bald Brian went to a wedding in Vegas, and Don Henley was playing, and he said the first song he played was Dirty Laundry, and then he went into Witchy Woman, and I was like, why didn't someone fucking hit him with a mic stand and just throw him
what
in the
part
pool?
Of that is the opening with Dirty Laundry is like way up top. Look, I'm not an Eagles fan, but if I'm at a wedding and Don Henley's performing,
and he
starts with Dirty Laundry, you know what? Kudos.
That song sucks so
I disagree
badly.
You're a radio guy.
Hit them when they're up, hit them when they're down.
But who's at a wedding?
Hit them when they're
drunk
down.
White people.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, and the guy's right there, and his facelift fell. He looks normal again.
I know, but anyway, I hate the Eagles, and
me too. Except Joe Walsh.
Yeah, I love Joe Walsh. You must do some Joe Walsh impersonation.
No, right? I love the James Gang so much. I remember once I was tripping so hard in my car. Remember we used to own CDs in the car, and you keep them on your visor?
I was thinking the other day, the company that made those CD holders for the visor,
amazing.
They got to be bummed out about now.
They're trying to figure out a way. There's no digital version of that.
Yeah.
I was tripping so hard driving through upstate New York from Montreal. Because it's always good to drive when you're tripping balls.
Yeah.
That I only listen to the Police, and I talk about this on stage too. The Police, James Gang, Nirvana. I would only play bands with 3 guys in it because I was like, "There's no way 5 guys are fitting in a stereo." I literally would take out a Pearl Jam, no code, and go, "No, so it's just too many guys. They'll never fit." And I was only listening to 3.
A lot of ZZ Top.
I didn't have ZZ, but it would have worked. How?
Is it Funk 42?
Funk 48, Funk 49.
Yeah, 49, maybe. That's
so great.
Great riff.
The Eagles are ridiculously bad. I think if you're a rock star, you owe it to us to die.
Well,
it's a young man's game. Nobody wants to see Mick Jagger in his fucking Wizards coat going through the hits with his face that looks like Morton Downey Jr. at this point.
Yeah. With the swastika or before or after the swastika. He did that.
Who?
Morton Downey Jr.
Why? I don't know anything about
You know that
this.
story? He
No.
went into, I like when people say, what are you talking about? And then you condescendingly say, you don't know that story?
No.
And then you're like, what? The Bismarck sunk? You don't know? No.
What if I just
you don't know? It's like a shaming thing.
I wish
you don't
I
know
knew,
that story?
But I'm hip to it now because now the next person that does it, I'm going to go, oh yeah, I do know. Never mind.
Yeah, smart. Morton Downey Jr. went into a bathroom. You want to talk about, like,
Talk show host from the 80s.
Yeah,
who yelled at his audience to zip it.
Zip it. Yeah, he'd be like smoking and yelling.
Yeah, chain smoking, sallow eyes.
Here's the thing. It's weird because there are people who've killed other individuals, and I go, that person's flawed. And then there are people who have done what I'm going to say that Morton Downey Jr. did that's more egregious on some sort of weird cosmic level. Like in my mind, I don't have the male slot for it. Like I go, all right, that guy killed 3 nuns, but he didn't do this.